them all. I worked with all of them. I know the good ones and the bad ones. He's not a good one, this one. But he'd come in, sir, it's so nice to meet you, sir. Oh, it's such an honor to be, oh, this is the Oval Office. Oh, sir, thank you, sir, thank you, sir. Then he comes back here and he says, I didn't like the guy. Can you believe it? And I gave you, not him, I didn't give anything. I gave you everything that they wanted. I gave you because I love this state. This state has to flip Republican. It has to. Let's do it. That's why I'm here. Let's do it. I'm not here for my health. That's why I'm here. Think of where I could be, though. I could take our beautiful First Lady. I could be on the beautiful beaches all over the world. I could be in Monte Carlo. I could be all over the world, the best properties in the world. I have the best properties. And where am I? I'm right now in Aurora. And that's where I want to be, because we're going to solve this problem. We're going to solve this problem, right? If you said, where would you rather be, on the most beautiful beaches in the world, or with you trying to figure out what the hell happened to Aurora? Because you have a very different place than you had just a few months ago, right? We're going to take care of it. But Polis, he's a coward, he's a fraud, he's pathetically trying to deny. He's pathetic. He doesn't see. You know, they don't want to see. You know what? They don't want to. They want to stay with Washington because otherwise they'll get indicted. They'll find they did something wrong. They'll get indicted if they don't. So he's afraid. They're all afraid. They're all cowards. So this guy doesn't see what you see. He doesn't see people bursting into buildings with AK-47s. Military-style weapons, sometimes better than our own military. You have to ask, they're illegal migrants. They come from poor areas. Where the hell did they get these guns, the best guns? Where do they get them? Where do they get them? Who gives them better guns than our military has? Who is giving them the guns? But she's committed crimes against your state. She has committed crimes by allowing these criminals in. And many of these people are murderers. Let's take a look at a couple of little quick notes that I put up. You know, we're giving you the expensive treatment because of the fact we want to win the state so badly. So we gave you a couple of videos today. Play them, please.
Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies?
Do you regret terminating it, given that migration has increased in the wake of that?
The entire world is showing up here at our doorstep, and they're crossing illegally, and they are expecting to get released here into the United States.
A group of men walking up a stairwell at the edge of the Lowry apartment complex in Aurora. All of them appear to be carrying rifles and handguns, and the video shot earlier this month. One of the men can be seen talking on a cell phone. They all then gather around a door and go in. Another video clip shows men forcing a door open.
This is a picture of gang members breaking into a vacant apartment so they could move a Venezuelan family in and then collect rent. This is our business plan, one gang member told the housekeeper. If he, the property manager, doesn't like it, we'll fill him with bullets.
In Regency, a Venezuelan gang known as Tren de Aragua has victimized thousands through extortion, drug and human trafficking, kidnapping, and murder. Alvaro Bosa, a former Venezuelan police officer now living in Florida, says he fled his country in large part because the gang had become so powerful they could kill law enforcement like him with impunity. Bosa says a fellow police officer who refused to cooperate with the gang was shot 50 times. Now, U.S. law enforcement, including Customs and Border Protection and the FBI, say the gang has made their way into the country.
Members have been tied to hundreds of crimes, from assaulting NYPD officers and a murder in Miami to shooting two different NYPD cops who were trying to arrest one of its members in June.
We hear from the mother of Jocelyn Nungary, the 12-year-old allegedly assaulted and killed in June by two illegal migrants. New court documents revealed they were a part of a Venezuelan gang.
Tren de Aragua has given their members the green light to attack and kill police officers in Denver.
We went out to some of Chicago's most violent neighborhoods to meet with current and former gang members who tell us that TVA showed up when the city opened up migrant shelters in these areas, and that now the Venezuelan
trying to move in.
The city nonprofits have lined up to help the migrants that have come here, but nobody is helping the American citizens, the residents that are trapped.
They told us that they really couldn't do anything unless something happened. It is not by any means an isolated occurrence, unfortunately. I call 911, no help comes from me. No help. We were on our own and we were left to die.
Open borders, deadly consequences.
Border crisis, record high crossings are putting a strain on cities across America. It is a full-blown invasion.
Armed Venezuelan gang members storming an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado.
When people talk about lack of crime, this is what they're talking about. Biden and Harris have created a program to bring them in under humanitarian parole.
I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been released into the United States.
My 20-year-old daughter, Kayla Hamilton, was murdered in her own room. Kayla's murderer was apprehended by Border Patrol crossing illegally into the U.S.
Kayla's murderer had been improperly released into the United States.
Abolish ICE. Yeah, we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on special immigrant visa.
More than a dozen people suspected of being Tren de Aragua gang members right here in San Antonio.
The gang members had been terrorizing the apartment complex. New details in the murder of Laken Riley.
The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national.
And was paroled and released into the country by the Biden administration.
Two men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder in the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
Court documents suggest a group of men arrested for beating and robbing a Dallas woman last month are members of a Venezuelan street gang.
Manuel Hernandez was booked by Colleyville police just 2 days earlier and released the day before the robbery.
Four years ago, it would be unthinkable that you'd be watching something like that. Again, we had, think of it, the safest border in the history of our country. We never had a border so safe. All they had to do is leave it. Joe could have gone to the beach. You think she looks good in a bathing suit. And all he had to do is leave the guys that we had. They were great, great people, and we ran it tough. Remain in Mexico, little things like remain in Mexico. I want to say we want to have people come into our country, but they have to come in legally. We don't want them. And now America is known all throughout the world as occupied America. They call it occupied. We're being occupied by a criminal force. And we're an occupied state that refuses to let our great law enforcement professionals do the job that they so dearly want to do. You know, they want to do the job so badly, but they're threatened constantly. You're going to lose your pension. They don't want to do it. What is this ideology? It's so sick. But to everyone here in Colorado and all across our nation, I make this pledge and vow to you. November 5th, 2024 will be Liberation Day in America. It will be Liberation Day. Thank you. I will rescue Aurora and every town that has been invaded and conquered. These towns have been conquered. Explain that to your governor. He doesn't have a clue. They've been conquered. And we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them out of our country, and we will be very, very effective in doing it. It's going to happen very, very fast. It's going to get them the hell out of our country. And if your weak and ineffective governor, Jared Polis, was doing his job, he would be leading the fight to get these gangs and thugs the hell out of Colorado now. And remember, it was Polis. So nice to be in the White House, sir. Yes, sir, Kobe, sir. called me sir, and would have done whatever the hell I wanted. Yes, sir. Oh, sir, it's such an honor. And yet it was Polis who led the move to take me off the ballot because I was leading in the polls against all of the Democrats. And then the Supreme Court, very brave and very brilliant, actually, voted 9-0 that I should be on the ballot. 9-0. Everybody unanimous that I should be. I was leading everybody on the ballot. Every Democrat, I was leading everybody. He said, we have to get him off the ballot because that was part of their scheme. You know, not only the weaponization, but this was actually part of the weaponization. Their first move was to try and get me off the ballot. They didn't want to run against me. They liked other people much better. Much better. You know, we ran and won in 2016. We did much better by millions of votes in 2020, but we won't discuss that. And I will tell you, you see it by the crowd, you see it outside. Let's take a look outside. We are today, there's more enthusiasm for this movement, MAGA, the greatest movement. It's called Make America Great Again. There's more enthusiasm today than ever before. But there was great indignation in Colorado by what this ineffective person did. They really were angry at him, and they were angry. And especially, you know who was the most indignant? The Democrats, believe it or not. They thought it was a terrible thing to do because that is really a threat to democracy, not the fake threat that they use all the time. So I hope that Colorado, I love this place. I'm here a lot, as you know, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends here. And they tell me the whole thing is turning, but you can't live like this. You can't live with these people. These are stone cold killers. You could be walking down the street with your husband. You'll both be dead. They won't even remember they did it the following morning. You can't live like this. So I hope that Colorado will show a tremendous protest vote for what they did to try and keep me off the ballot, and more importantly, for what they have done to the fabric of your culture. And remember, I really believe Colorado is, you know, we're very close. We're very close. In fact, in one poll, we're leading by a little bit. Think of it, though. Think of it. The Democrats are good people. The Democrats were angrier than anybody. They thought it was terrible, the concept of it. And even when you get the 3 very liberal votes in the Supreme Court voting, and when they vote for Trump, you know it's got to be pretty off the wall, right? But they did. I respect them for doing it. But Colorado is going to vote for me because I am going to make Colorado safe again. We're going to make you safe. We're going to do it fast. In 3 local apartment complexes that Kamala has infested with the TDA, that's the gang that we talked about, the prison gang. They come out of prisons. 80% of the residents are now living with their relatives in different states and other places. They've been forced out of their building. 20% of the residents stayed, and they're fearing for their life. They had no choice but to stay. They're being threatened every single day. They're going to be out soon. They're going to be out. They don't have to be out. I would say if they can hold out, you know, on January 20th, it's too long. You better get out of there, Stuart say. But January 20th, those guys are going to be out on their asses, and they're going to be out of this country. They're going to be out of the country. Members of the gang now beat down doors with hammers and engage in open gun battles with rival groups in this once peaceful, beautiful, pretty crime-free community. The illegal alien gang member who was the alleged leader behind the invasion of Aurora was recently
Used to be a Boy Scout camp in Aurora, Colorado.
Beat him beyond
In the mountains.
recognition, breaking his nose, breaking his jaw, and inflicting traumatic brain injury on this victim. He will never be the same, as you know. The thug was later arrested for shooting two men in the same apartment building and breaking another man's ankle, which he did just for fun. Once again, this animal had arrived at our border and was released into the United States by Kamala Harris, the worst border czar in the history of our country. Here in Aurora, and remember that chart, my all-time favorite chart, remember that chart. Look what happened, that arrow, all-time low in history, and then look it to the right, look what happened literally the day they took over. It became a scene that nobody thought was possible, not in this state. I know this state very well, I've been here so much, and not in this state. Nobody thought this was possible, that would even be up here talking about this. Did anybody think 5 years ago, 6 years, anybody would be up here talking about that a Venezuelan gang with the most sophisticated rifles, weapons, and guns that anybody has ever seen would be taking over your state? And they're not stopping. They're not stopping. This guy gets in. You got to get a new governor, by the way. But if he gets in again, runs next year. But actually, more importantly, I can't believe she gets it. I can't believe it. By the way, did you see 60 Minutes? Her answer was so incompetent that CBS and 60 Minutes, a prestigious show, but I knew they were crooked as hell for years. They used to do the opposite to me. You know, to me, they used to cut my statement. To her, they added the statement on. This is a big difference. You want the guy that gets cut. They cut it because I made such great statements. I said, why did you cut that statement? Well, we just felt we had to do it for time. They cut the heart out of the statements. But for me, they cut the statements. For them, they added it. So they took her entire statement out, and they took some just words. It's just words. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. I'm telling you, there's something wrong with her. They took these words. So think of this. And you know they got caught. I think it's the greatest scandal in broadcast history, actually. They took it out and they added something else in. You think they'd do that for Trump? Her statement was so bad that rather than airing it, they cut it out. They took out the whole thing and they added a much shorter statement that she made 10 minutes later, having nothing to do with the question. I don't think anything like that's ever happened. And now we're finding out that it happened throughout. It wasn't the only instance. And now we're thinking that it probably happened with Biden a couple of times because he was interviewed by 60 Minutes and some strange things happened. So they're asking, but think of this. So CBS gets a license and the license is based on honesty. I think they have to take their license away. I do. Here in Aurora, a 35-year-old mother of three had to leave her apartment out of fear for her children's lives. She said, quote, it's not safe there, especially if you have kids. If you have kids, it's horrible. My kids used to walk to school. They were so happy. We were so safe. But they don't feel safe anymore. And I would never let them walk to school. Sometimes I keep my kids home. I don't even let them go to school. When I announced my presidency in 2015, you all remember that time, and they said, oh, he's just doing it for fun. You think this has been fun? I've been investigated more than Al Capone. This is not Al Capone, Scarface. He's the most, probably, I always try and think of very evil people. Give me the most, and I'll tell you I was investigated more. But think of it. He goes Hillary Clinton. How about Hunter, right? Now, I think of Al Capone because there's a toughness, a meanness, Scarface, the whole deal. And I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. That's an amazing phenomenon. But when I announced my presidency in 2015, I said they're not sending their best, and I took such heat. How dare he say that? This is America. Well, it turned out that what I said was like peanuts compared to the fact. I said they're sending people that have lots of problems, which they definitely do. They're sending people and bringing those problems with them. And they're bringing drugs, and they're bringing crime, and they're rapists. Okay. So I made that statement. And I got elders got to be by the next. Look how many you have back there. Oh, I got elders. But I took a lot of heat for saying it, but I was right. And now everybody is admitting that I was right. You know, that Trump was right. How many times have you heard that? You know, when Trump ran, he made those statements. Those statements are peanuts compared to what's happening to our country. These are the worst criminals in the world. Kamala used to say, you can't say it anymore. No, the people we're bringing in are very nice people. They don't commit crime, remember? Our criminals are worse. Our criminals are like babies compared to these people. These people are the most violent people on earth. And remember, they don't come just from South America. They come from the Congo and Africa. They come from all over the world. They come from the Middle East. They come from Asia. They come from prisons and jails. They come from all over the world. And she was saying, these are very nice people. Either she's really dumb or she's very naive. Something's wrong. Something's wrong up there. The only good thing about it, I'll tell you, there's a couple of good things. There are only one good thing, but maybe two. One of the good things about it is that they make our criminals look like nice people, okay? So our criminals are now, we see these really horrible, horrendous criminals, and we say, they're not so bad. The other thing is, they're really great if you happen to be running against the politician that allowed this to happen. Because I don't know how it's possible for anybody to lose. Because we have to clean out our country and we have to make America great again, and we're going to do it. So you know the story here. We're joined today by another Aurora resident who you know, Cindy Romero, and she's going to come up and say just a few words. She bravely published her camera footage of what she witnessed, and it is gone all over the world. Cindy was forced to flee her home after her car was hit with gunfire. Another day in Aurora. Can you imagine this happening? A lot of these people live in Aurora. They live in Colorado. Most of you live in Colorado. And can you imagine that you have somebody standing up here talking about this stuff? It's hard to believe. She said life in her community had become, quote, a total nightmare. And every time she went to take out the trash or went to bed at night, she had to lock her door with 4 separate locks. She has locks all over her door. And then put braces on her door. And she was preventing people that were knocking on her door, that were wanting to do a lot of bad things. So I'd like to ask Cindy, she's been very brave actually, and she was able to release footage that was so violent and vicious. And Cindy, I wouldn't have done it personally, but that's okay. You're probably braver than I am. Cindy, come up for a minute, please. Come on up.
Affecting me, this is affecting all of you as well. We've got to get Trump back in office. We've got to get it done. With Trump's help, we can take this state back over. We can make a difference. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, for believing me. Thank you.
She's very brave. Getting all of the evidence and all of that footage. I just said you're very brave, Cindy. Thank you very much. Really a big help. And because of Cindy and others like Cindy, the radical left can't say it never happened, because there we have it. And I promise you this, Cindy, that Kamala Harris's reign of terror ends the day I take the oath of office. It ends. Your community will no longer live in fear. You will once again have a protector in the White House. I'm going to be a protector. You know, I said, I think we're doing very well with women. We're doing great in the polls. We're winning in all of the polls. just about. But somebody said, women love my policy, but they don't like me. I think they do like me. I'll tell you what. So they said, and I said a week ago, I said, I think women like me because I will be your protector, and I protected you for 4 years. We had no wars. We had no terrorism. We had none of these things that you're seeing today at levels that nobody in the world is experiencing. And I said, I will be your protector. They said, who the hell is he to... But the women didn't say that. The women want protection. They don't want to have these people pouring into their house. And you know where else I protect you? Where I protect you very well. I knocked out ISIS, as you know. They've been playing with ISIS for 20 years. I did it in 1 month. We have the greatest military in the world, but you have to know how to use them. You have to know how to use them. But I protect you against outside enemies. But you know, I always say, we have the outside enemy, so you can say China, you can say Russia, you can say Kim Jong-un, you can say, but that's not it. It's going to be fun. If you have a smart president, no problem. It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China and Russia. And I'll tell you, as an example with Russia, if I were president, the Ukraine-Russia situation would have never happened, October 7th in Israel would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. You had no inflation. Everyday Americans like Cindy are living in fear, all because Kamala Harris decided to empty the slums and prison cells of Caracas and many other places, happening all over the world, every country. You know, prison populations all over the world are down. Crime all over the world is down. Because they take the world's criminals, gang members, drug dealers, and they deposit them into the United States, bus after bus after bus. In Venezuela, their crime rate went down 72%. You know why? Because they took the criminals out of Caracas and they put them along your border and they said, if you ever come back, we're going to kill you. Think of that. And we have to live with these animals. But we're not going to live with them for long. You watch. Kamala's policy is to release and resettle all illegals without checking, without check. You know, she's a radical left person, just so you know. There's no way. The biggest problem with her is nobody knew who else she was. They say, who's running? Harris. Harris. Who the hell is Harris? They said Kamala, the one that failed. The one that was the first one out in the 22-person campaign for the Democrat nomination. The one that wasn't able to make it to Iowa. The one that quit first. She was the first one out. She's running. But she's more liberal than crazy Bernie Sanders. Can you believe it? She's more liberal than Pocahontas. You know who that is? Remember Pocahontas?
Elizabeth Warren.
She said she's Indian. Why? Because my cheekbones are high. My mother told me. My mother told me I had high cheekbones and therefore I'm an Indian. She made a living going around saying she was an Indian, going to college, becoming a professor. Now, but I hit her very hard. That was the end of her presidential campaign. Thereby guaranteeing unfettered access for Venezuelan gangs and thugs and criminals. And you know, we're talking a lot about Venezuela because Aurora is really infected by Venezuela, but they're coming from all countries, We have the great Tom Homan, Central Casting, right? Tom Homan told me the other day. He said last month they came from 168 countries all over the world. Most people don't even know you had that. You actually have more than 200, but they don't even know you had. But they came from 168 countries, most of them criminals, and they deposit them in our country, and we're supposed to take it. And then the liberal philosophy is, we'll make them into wonderful people. No, you're not going to make them into wonderful people. Some people murdered, many people actually murdered more than 3 people. The murders that came in, some were on death row, and they said it's better if we just let it go to America. This is what we have, and they're in your community, but they're going to be all over. And you know, other communities in other states, because every state is a border state now. It's not Texas and Arizona, it's every state is a border state. Every state. And and people are living in deathly fear. Most of them, a lot of them have already been hit, but a lot of them haven't, but they're going to be hit. Because there's millions of them, they're all over the place, and they're walking through our country, and they're going to be settled in a lot of these states that never thought a thing like this could happen. It's only going to get worse, but we're going to make it better, and we're going to make it better really fast. Kamala is flying them. Think of this. She said, no, about 2 months ago, her and Sleepy Joe, they said, we're really getting killed by this issue, so let's toughen up the border a little bit. All he would have had to do is say, he keeps talking about policy, and Trump told the Congress not to do this, and it's false. All he had to do is one thing. Call up Border Patrol. This is the President of the United States speaking. Close the border, and the border's closed. You don't need a bill. You don't need a bill. But he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do that because they actually want to have open borders. So they had 21 million people come in. I think much more than that, including the Gadaways. But think of this. If you had 4 years of that, you would have 200 million people come in the whole world. The country would be over. It would be finished. It wouldn't be. You wouldn't even have a country anymore. You'd have a crime den. She cannot be allowed to do this to our country. She shouldn't be the one that was chosen anyway, because she is, in fact, by the way they chose her, a threat to democracy. She really is. And just in case you didn't know it, Biden hates her. I believe there is a small possibility, very small, like 1%. There's a 1% possibility that he hates her more than he hates Donald Trump. I think he hates her. The last thing he thought, he won the primary. In all fairness, he won. It was me against him. How about me? I have to run against the guy. I spent $150 million. I had to debate him. I debated the guy. He went way, way down. And I thought it was over. And then it's like a fighter. Then they put a new person in her. And we don't know anything about her. We have to. But now we learned, and now the people are learning, and she's crashing like a rock. Uh-oh. I just a thought from a very brilliant mind, they might want to put a third person in that. Oh, no. Please be nice to Kamala, to my people, I'm telling you. Everybody that's on the Trump team, be nice to Kamala, because they're going to put a third person in. Let's see, who are they going to put in next? This can only happen. They keep saying Hillary. Hillary's coming. Oh, Hillary's back.
Meet her the first day.
If Trump talks about the 2020 election, they say indict him. He's a conspiracy theorist. But Hillary's still talking about 2016. She's like, she has got serious Trump derangement syndrome. She's got a massive case of Trump derangement. No, but you ever notice she talks about it all the time, all those people that. But when anybody from the right talks even a little bit, no, we don't forget. We're not forgetting. Hillary is talking about it. I saw her 2 days ago.